We are live, y'all, and this is the first episode of the Executive Suite. I am so excited. I am your girl, TeQuila Shabazz, and I am so happy to be joined here with Dr. Shaniqua Jones and Valencia Bay. What a great way to kick off the Executive Suite. I'm going to start first by introducing myself and telling you guys a little bit about why we are doing this show, and of course, opening up the platform for our ladies to introduce themselves. I also want to tell you a little bit about how the show is going to go, because this is not your typical podcast. We are talking about real life topics, but we do it kind of with a twist. So let me start with the introduction. I am TeQuila Shabazz. I am a social entrepreneur, have been so for 10 years. Everything that I do, I must do for purpose. I lead and live my life in purpose, on purpose. I am the CEO and founder of Key Virtual Support Solutions, which is a staffing agency that matches highly qualified entry to executive level virtual assistants with entrepreneurs, executives, and business owners. And I am also a wife, a mother of a 28-year-old daughter, a leader, a coach, a mentor, a writer, a believer, a creator, and also trying to get that pole dancer and Pilates thing under my belt too, honey. So yeah, I'm all of those things. And I think a lot of times when people see successful people in general, women specifically, they kind of lock us in the box. And this is why it's so important to have these conversations and talk about life on the other side of success, right? My goal and my purpose in life is to leave legacy, build leaders, move with integrity, and help me and others obtain a level of freedom that matters to them. And I am all about the lifelong learning and evolution for communities. Why is this show important? Because I really want to highlight the voices of women that have achieved a high level of success. It's not easy to do. We have to overcome a lot. And I think that it looks really different for women as opposed to men. I know that we get all caught up in gender, but it's different, okay? And you guys are going to see that. And I also want to dispel a lot of the stereotypes. We think we know what success looks like, right? It ain't always blinging and flinging, okay?
Absolutely.
Look, listen, I went to a conference about 3 years ago, and there I saw one of my heroes, Janice Bryant Howard, right? And nobody knew who she was for real, right? But she like a Beyonce in my world, but this woman can walk. She's the second richest, wealthiest Black woman in the country, right after Oprah. And she could walk through Target and you wouldn't even recognize who this woman is. So success doesn't always look like what we think it looks like. So we want to dispel those stereotypes and share wisdom with those who are walking their own path with each other and those that are coming up under us. So I want to first open the door or open the floor for Dr. Shaniqua Jones to introduce herself and really just give us a snapshot of your story, right? Who you are, what you do, when you started, why you do it, how you live in, your success, achievements, and how you define success. So just kind of a snapshot of that. I know that was a mouthful, but you got the floor to do this.
Yeah, I was taking mental notes and being very present. So one of the questions you asked that I love, and I'm glad that we're able to have this conversation quickly about being able to differentiate when someone asks you who you are opposed to what you do, because those are two different things. And most times when people ask who you are, they give you all the titles, the job duties, the descriptions, what we post on social media in terms of what society says who we are. But I'm love personified. That's who I am. Now, what I do, because I'm love personified, is that I am, I've been coined the Olivia Pope of education as it relates to being able to dismantle barriers in our educational system as it relates to restorative justice and discipline, and understand that there's a difference between discipline and consequences. We all have consequences, but most times society say consequences are something negative, and that discipline is also negative. But discipline is something that we need to have in order to be held responsible and accountable for our actions, so that we learn whatever lessons we need to learn, so we don't have to repeat if it was a mistake. And I don't necessarily believe in mistakes unless you don't have the tools, the skills, or resources that are adequate enough, that are conducive to meet your needs, so you could come out on the other side to learn that lesson. So with all that being said, I'm a mother of 5 children, ranging from ages 15 to 23. I have 4 daughters. My daughters are 15, 17, 18, 23, and my son is 21. I'm happily married, going on 10 years in August. I married my best friend, but of course it took some failed attempts at life and relationships to get to where I am today. And so I achieved the goal of reaching academic success by obtaining my doctoral degree in 2016. And I was sadly mistaken, and God had to humble me. And I don't necessarily use that word too loosely, mainly because being a preacher's kid, I was taught humbleness was something that you were supposed to do. Like you lay low, you stay in the background, don't get beyond yourself. Don't even compliment yourself. Let other people compliment you. And even when they compliment you, be very careful about how you receive the compliment, because you don't ever want to be seen as being cocky, right? So I am the total opposite of what I was raised to be. I still have that foundation, even though at the age of 15, I was like, God who? God where? Because these boys at the lock are not trying to quote scriptures. So I'm in a jam right now. And so from the age of 15 to 26, I really lived a life of hell. From homelessness, poverty, not just poverty in terms of the financials, but poverty in terms of my mindset. Was diagnosed with being bipolar after I won't say failed attempt, after trying to take my life in 2001. I was a teen mom at the age of 17, ostracized from the church. Some of us can share some of the church hurt that comes along with being a preacher's kid and having that platform. And so what I can say is that I don't regret anything I've ever gone through. And we talking about poverty, we talking about mental illness, cervical cancer, domestic violence, rape, sexual assault, all the different things that they have causes for and walks for. Today, I probably could wear a ribbon for it. And so God was just able to restore my mind and restore my soul, and allowing me to restore my temple through education. And once I started taking my education seriously and not just going for the formalities of just trying to do something in between time or until the next blessing come along, which also leads to something that you said about how do I define success. And my husband and I was having a discussion about that the other night. And he said, do you really believe you're successful? That you're successful, or do you believe you're blessed?
Yes.
I think I'm both. He was like, I don't think so. And so he kind of had my wheels turning about that, because he was like, to see how God has brought you to where you are today, going from making 38,000. I was making 35,000 in my doctoral program. And I did that because the benefits were good, but the pay was low, but it also paid for my doctorate degree. So it's like that sacrifice I made, but I made the mistake of getting beyond myself. The title of knowing that I was going to become doctor. And this is our transparent moment, that anything that you put, for me, I'm a believer in God and I'm not ashamed of it, but anything I put before him, he will take it away. I put my hair before him, and guess what it said? It's gone. Alopecia, scarring alopecia. Money. I've come through money and had no clue where it was going, or because of my mental illness and not properly caring for myself. When I got in my emotions, I did some spending, like it was very negligent, right? Unnecessary things, because I didn't have no sense of self. And so going from making 35,000 to a mediocre title to making 38,000 with a significant long director community engagement and diversity program, that was like exquisite. But I was only making $3,000 more than what I was making before I got the doctorate degree. And it wasn't until God really had to sit with it, like, this what we doing? Like, fam, I ain't go through, like, I'm talking to God like, Joe, like, this ain't it. But he literally just took me and said, you know what? You're learning what I need you to learn, because you lost it all. And I believe wholeheartedly you're going to learn how to be a good steward over what I give you. So I give you more. And ever since that moment, I want to say that was like spring of 2017, making 38,000, 5 kids, married, cars getting evicted, all type of different things was happening. I still was showing up. And he just let me know, like, you'll never work another day in your life. You'll be on assignment. And so when he gave me that, what I took from that is that typically we associate words. Like when you say Monday, some people might get anxious because Monday for them is like, oh my gosh, I'm dreading going, coming back from a weekend. And now I got to go back into this place of employment that I may have been passionate about at some point, but because of life, because of workplace ostracism, because of workplace trauma and all the other different things that we may be carrying from childhood, that we dread working. And so he gave it to me that I'll be on assignment, and whatever assignment he gives me, that when the assignment is done, I leave, and I leave with tactfulness and with the highest level of integrity. So I don't do myself or the people I was assigned to serve a disservice.
That's
and
right.
From that moment on, life really took off. And here I am today. I recently, as of April 16th, I resigned from my full-time assignment, and now I'm a full-time businesswoman. And I have Purple Path, which is the path to restoration. I do a lot of restorative justice trainings across the state. I have a global platform. I work with MacArthur Foundation as their resident restorative justice expert. I could go on and on, but I think I answered the majority of your questions.
You definitely did. And you did. That's what I mean about a summary of life. So you talked about going from 35,000, 38,000, and now being on assignment. What does that look like? What does it look like now for you?
Honestly, it's this what I call simultaneous reality, which is a girlfriend of mine who's part of my prayer group said that her minister brought to her attention, not knowing that was a real term. Like, we know that exists because we know that we have great things happening, and then at the same time we have some things that are happening that are challenging us in every sense of the way. And so I have what is called the simultaneous reality, walking away, stepping out on faith. That takes courage, and I'm proud, I feel liberated. I have a team that really relies on me and being able to learn how to delegate properly, and just watching my baby that God has given me, Purple Path. And now also come fall, because I homeschool my 3 youngest girls, that we'll be opening our homeschool network up to other children, and we'll have the very first online restorative justice high school in the nation.
Yes, come on. That's what it means to be on assignment and then do so and be rewarded financially over 6 figures. So thank you for that wonderful introduction. I'm going to pass the torch to Valencia so that she can also give us, who you are, what you do, when you started, why you do it, how you living, what's achievements, and how do you define success?
Yes.
It's a lot. Coming after the two of you, I don't know where to start. So I'll just tell you who I am, and then I'll tell you who I am, and then I'll tell you what I do, because what I do is somewhat a part of who I am. But I'm a creative person, so I've been a musician and I write, but the music part has been a very big part of my life since I was a young child. I sing, and then I started playing the piano, started playing the guitar, and then went to college for music, and that was my first love, my passion. And then I became a young mother. I became a mother a week after my 18th birthday with my son. He is now 33. And I have 4 children. I'm divorced now, but I was a single mother for a while. And I was broke and semi-broke at many points. But with the help of my parents keeping my kid, I moved out of their house, but they helped take care of him. And I was able to get my degree. And then I made the decision to get married about a year or so after that, and had 3 more children. So by the time I was 30, I had 4 children, and those children were young. And I did not know what I was going to do with my life. I had an undergraduate degree in English, had majored in, it was writing and broadcasting, and that's what I wanted to do. But I graduated during a recession, and I was not able to find the kind of job that I wanted. So I was thinking, am I ever going to have this life that I have, that I've dreamed about, that I've wanted, that I thought that I was working toward? And my ex-husband was doing, my husband at the time was doing well in his career, but I was with the children. And I made the decision that I did not want to kind of throw my kids away, so to speak. There were a lot of women who were working and struggling, and not struggling financially, but struggling with taking care of kids. And I had so many children. I had a lot of kids. And so I talked to my ex-husband. I went to graduate school, and I had a mentor who was at my church. she was an evangelist. She, God rest her soul, but she was an evangelist who was a teacher turned technical writer. And she told me, I said, I don't know what I want to do. She said, because I was a marketing communications writer at the time, and there wasn't a lot of money in that. And the field was oversaturated with people who were doing the same thing. And I was like, you know what? I need to do something different. And she said, well, you can do technical writing because that adds a little bit of money. She said, but anything that has anything to do with computers, that's what you want to do. And this was 1997 when she told me. So I went to IIT where she had gone for her certificate in technical writing years ago. And I found out that they had developed that program into a master's program in technical communication, information design, and human computer interaction. And I took her advice and I took a class. I started my master's degree. And then I took a class in usability testing. And that's where my love for user experience and everything came to. That's how it was birthed. I had no idea what this field was. I had no idea what I was doing, but I prayed and asked God for guidance, and he sent my mentor. And I went to that school and I went to IIT. And then that's when everything just really started to shift and change. And I thought, you know what? I can actually, I enjoy this. I can actually do this for a living. And it was just a natural extension of who I am. I love to talk. I love to interview people. And so user experience is a very new field. I've been working in the field for 22 years, and I'm a UX director, and I have my own company. And so the technology has just changed so much. Back then we were called webmasters, and we did everything for the 8-9 page sites that we built. But once I went to IIT and I found out about the field, I found a contract with a larger company, and I just started using my skills right away because no one knew what it was, but they knew that they needed someone to manage this whole internet thing that was going on, the internet, intranet, and extranet. So I was a very early practitioner here in the Chicago area. And this was during this is 99, 2000, and the .com boom. And they were looking for people like me, like gangbusters. We just made some good money, some good contacts. And it was a really good time. But then things kind of got too much with my 4 kids. And I stopped working, became a stay-at-home mother. And I thought, well, okay, I'll just work part-time. And I just got really comfortable. And then 8 years later, I found myself going through a divorce. And I had not worked full-time in many years. Mm-hmm. So I went from being a very comfortable and skilled worker in my field to, it was 2008 at the time. So I had to find a job in 2008. And y'all know what happened in 2008. Yeah. I had to find a job. I ain't had no job. I hadn't had no real job in years. So here I am looking for a job. And when you really resonated with me when you said you made $38,000 after your doctorate. So I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to make a decent amount of money. The only job I could find was one that paid me $22.22 an hour in the middle of a divorce. And I had 3 kids still at home. Mm. And my ex-husband was, it wasn't easy. So there was
words, huh?
Yeah.
it wasn't easy. And I had to figure out how to take care of myself and them. So TeQuila talks a lot about manifesting. And I knew the life that I wanted when I was married, and I was comfortable. And he did well. But I was like, okay, so now I have to build this life for myself. How do I do that? Mm-hmm. And so I actually wrote down what I wanted to do, where I wanted to be. And I started praying on that. And I said, God, I need you to lead me because I don't want to let these girls down. They didn't ask for this situation. I want to be able to help them go to college. I want to help them to be able to realize their dreams. I want to help them to be able to do that without a lot of trouble. And I wasn't thinking a lot about myself at the time. I was thinking most about my family. And this kind of goes to who I am and what I do. And I was happily making music. I also make jewelry and body butter and things. So I was happy as a stay-at-home mother, making my little bit of money and doing what I was doing, but that wasn't enough to take care of these kids. So I started looking for a job, and I was like, Lord, guide me. So he guided, he took me from that $22.22 an hour job. And then then I got a job as a manager. And then I met my mentor, who was a Caucasian male. And I was working with, there's a lot of conversation around disparity in salary with Black women, and then men. So at the time he said, you know what? he asked me, he said, I was working independently at the time because that was the way that I could make a little bit of money. And I thought I was doing something, making like $80 an hour. I was like, okay, this is good. He said, how much are you getting paid? I said, well, I'm doing, this was like 2009. And I said, well, I'm making $80 an hour. He said, do you know how much your counterparts are making? And they don't have the education that you do, and they don't know what you are doing, and they don't have your skill set. And I was like, no, how much they make? And pretty much they were making twice what I was making.
Mhm.
So obviously he became my mentor and he helped me to earn that and more. And he gave me also the courage and inspired me to start my own business. So that's how I was able to move from $22.22 an hour to the place where I'm now, where I'm an executive at a startup, and I also have my own business that I had to hire somebody to run because of my job, and then making enough money to help my two daughters in college at the same time, to save for retirement, which is something that I didn't know if I'd be able to do, to and also dabble in film production. So to be able to produce my own films and videos all out of my pocket, to help and just to encourage other women, hey, you can do this too. You can, this creative side, there's more than one way to accomplish a goal or a dream. So not everyone is blessed to be a to be an Erica Badu or a Cardi B. You know, we're creative and we do our thing, but it doesn't make us that much money. So
Yeah.
so I found that, you know, having my company and having my own stream of income, and then being able to support my own projects, and I can employ other people, I can encourage them to do their own, and I can even support other people's projects. I'm talking to a young lady now who wants to produce a film, and we're figuring out how we can do that together. And so that's a big part of what I want to do. And in my job, I also mentor and I also guide young women in tech, because there aren't a lot of us, and in user experience, especially in research, there aren't a lot of Black women, period. So there seems to be a great interest in us now with this diversity and inclusion. And I get messages on LinkedIn all the time saying, hey, we have this director role, we have this vice president role, we think you'd be great for it. And, you know, I talk to all of them just to see, because, you know, I ain't gonna turn down the check. Because at one point at some point soon, I want to become work optional, which means that if I get up in the morning and I feel like working, that's good. But if I get up in the morning and I don't feel like working, that's all right too. So I'm kind of at that point, but not quite. So that's what I like to do. But going back to setting those goals and wanting to be able to do certain things for my kids, I was able to do those things just by just keeping it moving and working and having the job and having the business. And then I was like, you know what? I want to have the business full time. So there was a point where I had the business full time, but then things kind of shifted financially. So I was like, well, let me go back and get this job. Because, you know, when you make a certain amount of money, you're used to making that money, and you really don't want any disruption in that in that at all. So you do what you need to do to balance.
And I love that too, Valencia, that
yeah.
you talk about, you know, being an executive and an entrepreneur, because I think that there's a huge misconception that you have to be one or the other.
Or the other, yes.
And what it means to be work optional. Like, I built my life to be work optional. If I don't feel well this morning, you know, I've set it up where my business does not stop, but I'm also going to honor how I feel. And I love that all of us, we all have this in common. I had my daughter at 16, Dr. Shaniqua, you was at 17, Valencia, you were at 18. And I just want to take this time to delve more into, with our time, like our show, and how we gonna do this, right? Like, so let me tell you how this goes. So you see, I got my hat.
Yes.
This is my head. This is the queen crown for today. That's what we gonna call it. And inside of here, I have several different topics. It could be real life topics around sacrifice, relationships, aging, stereotypes, success, all of that. And I'm going to pick, right? I am going to pick out of this hat the topic. And once I pick that topic, I'm going to go to my cards and I'm going to select a question. You have maybe 2-3 minutes to answer the question so that we can, we can move forward. And if, say we start with Dr. Shaniqua, she answers the question, we talk a little bit about it. Valencia, if you want to chime into that question, you can, or if you would like another question in that area, we can go there as well. So I'm going to first I'm going to shake this up, but I want you guys to pick a number from 1 to 10. The individual that has the closest number can decide whether they want to start or let the other person start. So from 1 to 10, I got my number. Dr. Shaniqua, what's your number?
8.
Okay. Valencia, what's your number?
3.
3. Okay, so Valencia, you got it right on the head. You be following me through my life number, right? So automatically came up in my head, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and pick. So do you want to kick off the question and answer it? You have 2 to 3 minutes to answer the first question, or do you want Dr. Shaniqua to? Which one?
I'll answer.
Okay, so you'll kick it off. All right, so she's gonna kick off our answers. And yeah, we got some comments, to our audience. Please leave any questions that you have, any comments that you have. We're gonna tackle those at the end. Okay, so I'm picking the very first one. And guess what it is?
What?
Guess what it is? Aging.
Oh,
is the topic.
That's a good one.
That is a good one. So that's the topic. Did you hear it, Dr. Shaniqua? What we talking about? Aging. Now, see, listen. Okay, that's an interesting, y'all. I know we got some sisters tuned in, and we're gonna be talking about aging. That's something we don't talk a lot about. Okay, we don't talk a lot about that. But here's the question, and Valencia, it is. What has been the greatest upside and downside to aging for you? What has been the greatest upside and downside for aging?
The upside is people used to tell me that your 40s are going to be great. Your 40s are going to be the best decade of your life. That is not true for me. I'm 52. This has been turning 50 was one of the best things because I stopped caring about every rule. I stopped caring about what people thought. And I realized my father became a preacher later in life, but he was a deacon. So I can relate to that whole strict thing and that whole trying to follow. And I never wanted to shame my mama. So there were a lot of things that my mother was, my mother still does. But I was like, you know what? I don't care. I'm making my own money. I'm doing my own thing. I'm following my own path. And when I turned 50, I stopped caring about a lot of things. And my life got exponentially better because I took more risks. I was like, it's either now or never. I got more years behind me than ahead. And then I became more of an active mentor to some of the women in my life who were in their 30s and 20s and their 40s, telling them, look, you can do this. Let's get up. Let's do it. I'm your cheerleader. If I can do it, you can do it. If I can go from being semi-broke when I was 39 years old to where I am now, where I'm very comfortable and I can do whatever I want to do. And there's still more to come. I'm looking forward to more. So just really enjoying the space that I'm in and knowing that I don't have to deal with anybody and anything if I don't want to is just liberating, freeing. I have enough wisdom and enough confidence to know that, hey, if I'm talking to someone and they don't appreciate what I'm saying, or if I'm trying to date somebody and he doesn't appreciate who I am, it's okay. It's all right.
That's so different from being in your 20s when you be
internalizing
that. So what's the downside, Valencia?
The downside is, my God, my back. And it's harder to lose weight when you're older. In this pandemic, I put on pounds and I lost pounds and I put on some more. And I'm like, my God, I got to work out every day. And I can't eat every day. And I can't eat this at all. Oh my God. But the ability to communicate and like my relationships are better. My romantic relationships are better because I'm just like, this is what it is. Oh, this is who you are. Okay. Can I work with this? Can I not? All right. Even with my kids, I love my children, but it's like, okay, so you said this, I said this, we can't see eye to eye. It's all right. I love you, but maybe we need a little space for a while. And it's not a bad, it's not a bad thing. And then with friends, as I became more successful, there was one friend, every time I said something, she's known me since high school. And every time I said something about what I was doing, I thought she'd be happy for me because she's known me in my different stages throughout life. And she was not happy. And that hurt my feelings. But I was like, you know what? it doesn't matter because I'm
Yes.
happy and I'm
Yes.
okay. And I don't need anybody to validate me or anybody to say that you're wonderful. It's good when they do.
It's so
But I
liberating.
don't,
That's what Michelle
right.
said. It's so
It's wonderful.
liberating. And I needed that message on children, you know, on agreement and disagreement with your children. My daughter is on heart. And right now, we give each other a little space. You understand what I'm saying? Because we had our first real adult to adult disagreement. All right. Dr. Shaniqua, you want to answer that question or you want your own question on age?
I'll take my own question.
Okay. A woman after my heart. Okay, let me get my own question on age then.
Right.
Okay. And you touched on this a little bit, but how has time and experience shifted your outlook on life in the past decade?
See, that 10 years is a lot.
It is.
And that's, I won't say it's coincidence. That's just how this conversation is supposed to go. My mom, who made 82 in March, came like deathly ill August of last year, entered hospice, came out of hospice, temporarily moved in with my family. And the reason why I'm bringing that up is because 10 years ago, I wouldn't have the level of responsibility or the ability to articulate and advocate for her a decade ago the way I'm able to do it now, and be able to do it in a way that I'm proud of what I'm able to accomplish. I'm proud of the way I'm able to advocate for her. Even had a newsletter that I release every other week on LinkedIn, and it was dedicated to her. It came out 9 a.m. this morning. So that's a shameless plug. Make sure you subscribe to my newsletter. But it's about the honest God truth. I had, even 10 years ago, I knew I was well on my way. It had got to a point by that time, I think I could see the North Star. I think I could see the light at the end of the tunnel that's going to lead me to the next part of my journey, where before I had no hope. I didn't know what to look forward to. And I honestly defeated myself, because not just because of a mental illness, but because I had went through so many egregious situations. I'm like, maybe this is just what my life is supposed to be. And leading to that, recently, I started to struggle with the word resilient. Because most times when people hear about my story, which I'm proud to share now because I'm no longer ashamed of my story, and I live my life out of mantra, journey not shared is a soul not healed, is that
I like
anytime
that.
I heard the word resilient, it always came from a place of pain, that the only way you could be resilient is if you went through something egregious. The only way you could be resilient is if you had to overcome some type of obstacle. I'm like, I don't want to be resilient anymore. If that's what, if I got to go through in order to be resilient. I'm challenged right now with how we use that word. But at the same time, I'm so proud of where I am in my life, because had I not gone through what I went through, I wouldn't be able to tell my story to the extent where people are able to see a real life application perspective of what restorative justice is, because I use my own life journey and my own power of storytelling and reflection to help people understand how they too can heal.
Yes, I love that. You know what? I hear that a lot, resilience. And so that really resonates with me, right along with strong. Right?
Yep.
Those two, like, you know. Okay, good. I love it. We going back to the hat. We're going back to the hat, ladies. Okay, and we are going to... so I think we touched on this too. This is success. Okay, so this is put my aging cards over there. Okay. You're gonna get a chance to elaborate on this. You just actually said it, but we're gonna start with Valencia. And what's your life mantra, and how do you stay true to it?
My life mantra is, if it doesn't feel good, then I don't do it. That's what my mantra is now. If it doesn't feel good, I leave it alone, or I just don't do it.
Right.
Something has to really sit with any job, any opportunity, any friendship, any relationship has to really sit well in my spirit. Uh, That's don't sound like an old lady. It's got to sit well in my spirit in order for me to, uh, in order for me to be okay with it. So that's my mantra. And so when I start to, around this time last year, I felt a little bit before like March, April. I started feeling uneasy. And I'm the kind of person who used to just help everybody. I was like overdoing it with the volunteering and. My sisters do it. My mother did it. That's who we are. We were just giving people. I give people money, time, whatever, not expecting anything in return. Then I got burned out, and I said I can't do this anymore. I have to feed myself. So my mantra became at that time. I wasn't really living it out, but it's like, okay, if it doesn't feel good, don't do it. So around this time last year, I just felt like really confined and really like I wasn't doing anything useful or helpful, and my creativity was at an all-time low. And I was like, I need to do something about this. So I went into it, and then relationship I was in just kind of just went down, and I was like, oh, I love him, and then my job just kind of and then business was, my business was doing really well. And so I was like, okay, this feels good. And then the creative, it felt like the creative pull, it was just pulling me and pulling me. So that's when I started. I'd done music videos before, and I started, and then I said, well, I want to just produce a film. I want to produce film. So I started to find mentors to help me to write and to help me to enter that space and to do things well, because I didn't want to do anything halfway. And once I started doing those things and moving forward, everything felt good again. I felt good about getting up in the morning, even though I was really sad for months about the relationship kind of shifting. I was just like, well, you know what? I'm gonna make the best, and I'm gonna move forward. And I ended up making a short film about postpartum depression with Black women, with an all-Black film crew, and that's what came out of that restlessness and that need to go forward. And then I feel like so if it doesn't feel good, don't do it. And that's how I live it. I just follow that with everything. So I'm much better off creatively and financially and professionally than I was this time last year, because I said, you know what, this doesn't feel good, so I'm just not going to do it, or I'm going to let this go because it doesn't feel good. And he said, don't feel good to him. And okay, well then let me go on. So I'm in a much better place because I live by that. If it doesn't feel good, then don't do it.
Love it. Dr. Shaniqua, you want that question or you want your own question?
You should know. Yeah, I put my own question.
Okay, so this question I picked up is define self-care and how important of a role does it play in success?
Oh man. So for me, self-care and soul care has to happen simultaneously. And being able to differentiate between the two is that self-care is about what I do in terms of my external temple. Like, my glasses got to be on point. The getting in the tub and the Epsom salt and the candles, the vibe, the energy, getting into my word, which kind of it's like one of the same, the soul care and the self-care. But then also too, just being able to take a step back. Now that I'm a full-time businesswoman, working with my virtual assistant, she like, Doc, okay, so we know you don't work the weekend, but what day out the week are we not working? Well, I mean, even if you decide to do, even if you decide to take, a client here or do a consultation or a debriefing, but it has to be a day out of the week that is not whatever you decide to do. And so I was like, word, let's see what day I want to pick. And so spending time with my husband, reconnecting with him, because we have to be careful about the prayers that we pray. We knew that we wanted to get to this point where we 6-7 figures. We knew we wanted to get to a point where we're going to be homeowners, but we weren't specific about once you obtain those goals, how do you maintain it? Because we talk about maintaining, like, okay, homeownership, pay your bills on time, make sure the mortgage is paid on time, make sure you understand, communicate when you don't understand something, speak up, speak out, don't wait till it become a issue, make sure the insurance and understanding all the logistics. But What about maintaining a relationship with the person you love?
Yeah.
The person that you made a commitment to. The idea of knowing that I wasn't the woman he met 16 years ago, and he's not the man I met 16 years ago. And if he is, or if I am, there's a problem, because for 16 years, we shouldn't be in that same space. So I had to learn how to be more specific with my prayers. I had to learn how to be more of a listener, because I talk a lot for a living. And so how do I switch that hat by relationship and understand that balance is not like, okay, January 1st to December 31st, this is what this year is going to look like. No, it's me saying that if I have a vision, I no longer do vision boards for the year, I do them for the quarter. But at the same time, what does that level of accountability need to look like? How am I, not just thinking about the goals that I set, but how I go about achieving those goals, but then also thinking about the obstacles that prevented me in the past from achieving those goals. So what do I have to do in order to understand that if the obstacles come, what are some alternative measures I need to take to make sure that I still stay the course? From my relationship with my husband to my relationship with my 5 children, not putting them in this one size fit all category. Each child needs something different, but more importantly, taking that step back, like, what do Shaniqua need right now in this moment? Making sure I stay on my therapy, with my therapist. We have a good working relationship, finding a therapist that work for me, not just going off the whim and saying like, okay, it's a fad right now. People starting to talk about mental health more. We're starting to normalize it just a tad. So yeah, I go to therapy, but no, like literally going through the process to figure out who is the right therapist for me. Is this therapist for me, or is this therapist triggering me even more to the extent where I feel like I will never heal and you're going to always keep getting this money because every time I talk to you, you bring up something different. I wasn't even thinking about that, right? Yes, journaling. I'm huge on, like, you see, I love my color purple. You have to figure out, it could be the smallest of things, but it means so much to me. So being able to have not necessarily even the things that I couldn't have. This the part right here. I remember when I didn't have anything. And I also recall being a child whose mother was a minister. And so when things started to happen financially in our home, when my dad and her separated, that means it changed the trajectory of our lives in terms of our livelihood. We didn't have the basic necessities. And because she was a minister, she wouldn't dare ask for help, ego and pride, and God to work it out, which I get that to a certain extent, but I was so troubled. Like, we don't have lights on at home, but you're still paying this 10%. Like, how much was that 10%? Like, do what I need to do. Like, and so I end up having to grow up faster. And that's how I kind of like led to the streets, because I'm like, if this is what living for God is like, I'm cool on that. Because I'm like, I don't know all the scriptures, but I remember him saying something about abundance. And if this is what abundance is, I don't know it, right? So, and I say this because I'm a gym shoe fanatic, but I had to realize that I'm more of a gym shoe fanatic because I remember the times when I was 15 and couldn't have it. And so what I don't want to do is overcompensate and do the same for my children. Like, I don't want to guilt trip myself or guilt trip them to think that because we have it now, let's spend it all because we still living out of survival and from a poverty mindset. No, you can still live a little, but you also need to be able to be responsible, and you have to prioritize. You just can't spend it because you have it, because a rainy day may come, and then what, right? So I had to learn that when I'm making decisions, am I making decisions from the 15-year-old broken piece of me, even though I'm an adult at the age of 41? So, because we have to realize that the decisions we make, good, not so good, and indifferent, don't impact me or affect me. It affect and impact everyone connected to me.
Oh, I love that. I love what both of you guys are saying. Like, what I got from you and you, Dr. Jones, is that knowing to check in with yourself and check in regularly, right? I'm a person that, some people do it annually, right? You just said you do it quarterly with your vision boards and things like that. Valencia said, when it don't feel good, that's when it's time to, let's go ahead and have a little talk with self. I got to do it daily. You understand what I'm saying with you? I got to do it daily.
I love that.
That's just how I am, because I am very, just I change like that. You know what I mean? One day I'm feeling this way. Tomorrow I may wake up feeling another way, and I have to do self-checks and also ask myself, just like you said, Dr. Shaniqua, is where is this coming from? Where is this coming from? Right? So I love that. And I love that you really delved into self-care, because I think that just like therapy, self-care is a fad right now. Right? That's a fad right now. So we have these ideas of what self-care looks like, and it's all, you know, bubbles and glitter, but really self-care is that hard work. That's where the growth is in that stuff that make you snotty nosed, right? That's where it's at. So I love that we really dive into that. Here go the black hat, it's back. I'm gonna bring my black hat back. But I'm going to take a little commercial break. And what that means is that you have 60 seconds, a 60-second elevator pitch to tell us about your business and how a person can use you. I am going to go ahead. 60 seconds now. 60 seconds. Because I'll cut you off like they told the people yesterday. So we got 60 seconds to tell what your business is. And I mean, basically to show commercial break. Valencia.
UX research and consulting, bgvconsulting.com. That's where you can reach me. And you can also reach me there for producing, for digital media projects and producing short films and videos.
I love how you
I use an all Black lady film crew.
Ooh, yes. All Black lady film crew. I love it. Okay, Dr. Jones.
Yes, you can find me at Purple Path, PURPLEPATH by drj.com. All things restoration, from our signature talks to our restorative justice trainings or our series, parent conversations and cafes, educational consultant, or even workplace consulting in terms of workplace trauma and workplace ostracism and how that relates to adverse childhood experiences and adverse community environments. All things related to going from trauma and pain to healing and restoration. That's who we are. The Purple Path is the path to restoration. Purple Path by drj.com.
Very good. I love it. And we'll make sure that you guys will be able to find that information, their websites and things of that nature, in the description for the replay. We're going to move on and keep this conversation moving. Does anybody in the audience have any feedback for these wonderful guests? You guys are so dope. You're giving me stuff to think about. Any questions, make sure to drop that into the chat. My team is looking at that right now for you. Sister Taylor X did say, thank you ladies for this. Honestly, she got tired of listening to men talk about entrepreneurship in general, right? Okay. Tamika says she looking forward to aging gracefully because every chapter gets deeper for her. Lucy says, wow, you all have such strong stories. I appreciate your transparency. It's inspiring. This is why we do this. And I'm going to give a shameless plug too before we move on. I think Dr. Jones talked about her virtual assistant. That's what I do. I connect virtual assistants with executives, entrepreneurs, and business owners. I'm very proud that those are primarily Black women, high achievers, 6, 7, 8-figure earners, right? Because we don't know how to sit down and have a break. And a real good assistant will tell you it's time to take a break. They'll take those things off of your plate for you. So if you guys are in the, you're looking for a great virtual assistant, great talent, of course, you can contact Key Virtual Support Solutions, and we got you. We have stellar reviews from our sisters, and we helping them out. Christopher and Jamelia Green says, thank you, ladies. This has been so impactful and needed. Thank you so much. So speaking of impactful and needed, this question right here is sacrifice. And I'm going to go ahead and have you guys pick a number 1 through 10 again. Okay. I'm going to have you pick it again from 1 through 10. And this is the person that will either kick off or pass the conversation. I think both of y'all be wanting to kick off stuff because we all talkers, right? So it's like, nah, I know.
You don't even need it.
since I kicked it off last time, why don't we let Dr. Jones kick it
1
off?
to 10. 1 to 10.
Okay.
Look at Valencia
All
trying to be fair. Don't be trying to change my rules.
All right.
I love reciprocity, though. I love reciprocity. Okay, so let's see if it works. If God says so. 1 to 10. Valencia, you go first.
7.
Dr. Shaniqua Jones.
8.
Okay, so it is 7. I don't know if you in my head or not, but what you can do though, you can pass it to Dr. Jones.
I'll do that. I'll do that.
Okay, so sacrifice is the topic. Ooh, sacrifice. Don't we know about that? Don't we know about that?
Yes, we do.
Ooh, okay. Oh, this one right here. This one gave me goosebumps right here. Okay. What beliefs have you had to release that caused rifts within yourself and your family and or your family, right? So
religion. I could tell you.
Right? Like, I don't even need no explanation. Let's get into it. Let's talk about it.
Religion. I've always been seen as being unorthodox, being called an anomaly. Because being a child, I was told that, and I say this all the time. I was always inquisitive. I use that word instead of saying nosy. Very inquisitive, very inquisitive. Being the youngest and the only girl, I'm 41. My mom is 42. My brothers are 55, 56, and 58. So that just goes to show you that there is a big age gap. And I kind of give that as some context or background because the sacrifice went from ostracism. Being the youngest was like, girl, you too young. You don't know what you're talking about. Or how would you know? You don't, you weren't even born in that time and age. And so the conversations they had, I could never figure out a way to how to implement my own life into the equation. And I knew they loved me, but actions speak louder than words. You tell me you love me, and I know, you provide the basic necessities for me, but I don't fit into this puzzle. And so the sacrifice was walking away from religion. I didn't understand why we went to Church of God in Christ, and be specific. Kojic, you couldn't wear red, you couldn't have tattoos, you couldn't, and like I was 16 with clip-ons. Like, Mom, my name is not like Ethel. Like, what are we doing? Why are we wearing clip-ons? What is like her, right? So or even having to come off the basketball team because my mom didn't approve of the shorts that I had to wear. And so I'm trying to do layups and a skirt that's down to my ankles. That's the equivalency of feeling like a quilt that I'm wearing. Can you imagine trying to do a layup in a blue jean skirt? Not this new blue, not like skinny jeans, like no, that thick blue jean that has a layer in it. That I'm like,
a whole visual.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
So the sacrifice for me was walking away from that foundation that my mother laid for me. Not and at that time it was because I was being rebellious, but now it's because I honor relationship over religion. I walked away from the doctrine and really honed in on what my relationship needs to look like with God. And so if I curse, Mom like, ooh, like you gonna have, I'm like, yeah. But God knows my heart, and I had to walk away from that because I realized as a child I was honoring and worshiping the people and the brick and mortar of the church, not knowing that the church is me. I am the church. I need to be fed, and what you're providing to me, which goes back to me being confused and being inquisitive as a child, that you tell me if I'm in school, be an upstander. I was always a high academic scholar because I was never afraid. Like, I don't understand that. Can you run that back, Turbo? run it back one more time. Say it a little slower. But then at the same token, if I had a question and we were in church and you reading something to me in the King James Version that I don't know how many people know about the King James Version, like thank God for the New International Version. Like break that stuff down because all these thee, thou, thou, and all that. It just wasn't it for me. But I'm in church and I like, hey, can you go back and explain that scripture? So God did what? And how did he do that? How did he turn the water into wine? It's like, she's being disrespectful.
How did that create a rift Like real
My
quick,
mother.
touch on that. How did that
My
create a
mother.
wrinkle when you did get into a position where you stood strong in your position with relationships over religion?
Because I didn't have the ability to articulate that at the age of 15, that I do have the ability. I'm like, that's what was really happening. It wasn't that I didn't believe in God. I just didn't believe in the way you believe in God or the way it was taught to me. So I was put out the church. I was already like, had one foot in, one foot out. Then when I got pregnant, it was just like push, right? And it was that shame, like my mother torn between like this church and my child. And I felt like at that moment, my mama chose the church over me. Not necessarily that may not been what she said. I knew she loved me, but her faith was her faith, and that wasn't something she was willing to change or revise to fit into a mold of what I need to understand. And so for the longest, the sacrifice was my relationship with my mother and my family, which was more like my church family. Because if you know anything about being raised Church of God in Christ, you probably see your church family more than you see the people that you're blood related to. So I sacrificed that sense of community.
Yeah. I completely understand. And that had to be hard. And now, full circle, your mom is with you.
Yeah, that's my boo.
Love it. Thank you for that answer. Because I think a lot of people can touch and feel that one right there. Religion, right? And our beliefs, education, all of that. I mean, at 20, I decided I wanted to be part of the Nation of Islam. You know, I was all kind of devil worshipers and everything. I'm like, what? What are you talking about? Okay. You want your own question, Valencia, or you want to go ahead and expound on that? What you want to do?
I want my own question. She went deep enough.
Of course you do.
Yes.
Okay. Wait, let me just make sure. Okay, here we go. In what areas are you disciplined and undisciplined, and how has it played out in your success?
Well, that's a good question. So I have the business requires, and my professional life requires me to be very disciplined and very organized. So that's one part of my brain. But the creative side of me is always screaming, we don't want to do that. We don't want to do it that way. We don't want to follow these rules. We don't. So it's like there's a constant battle inside of my head where I'm fighting discipline. I'm fighting getting up out of the bed when I wake up at 6, or staying in the bed until 8:30 and starting my day when I actually feel like starting my day. So it's a constant battle. What was the question again? Discipline and
disciplined and undisciplined. So the question is, in what areas are you disciplined? Right. Okay. So tell me what areas you're disciplined in. That's the struggle. So where are you very disciplined?
I'm very disciplined in growing my business and making my money and making sure that I stay on track financially. I'm undisciplined in things that are probably, I'm undisciplined when it comes to creativity. I like for it to flow. So I don't practice my guitar as much as I should. I don't practice the singing as much as I should. I just kind of do that. And that's something that I do. So I'm not very disciplined in that. I'm not very disciplined in booking either. So I pretty much book myself and do that. I'm not very disciplined in that. And I tend not to be disciplined in things that don't bring me either joy or financial reward. So I found that out about myself. And I recognize that about myself. And that's why my business does so well, because there was almost an immediate reward with that, as opposed to the creative stuff that it takes a little bit more discipline. It takes a little bit more tenacity. And I've done that in my 30s and in my 40s too. And there just wasn't the payoff that I was looking for. But when I started that business and I started talking to people and they're like, we love your personality. We love your work. We love you. Oh no, just stay on. I had clients on retainer for about $6,000 a month. I had like 4 of them. And you know how much work I did? Not a whole lot, but I showed up and I provided them consulting services and I told them what they should do. I wrote out plans, but it wasn't. They said, well, we want to keep you around. I was like, well, you have to, in order to keep me around, you have to, why don't you just put me on retainer? And that was easy. So I can be disciplined. When they call me up and they say they want something, I'm Johnny on the spot, or I tell my assistant, hey, we got to take care of this. Because though that's the reward, and that's where I'm disciplined. And I know this sounds horrible, but that's where I'm disciplined. And on the creative side, I try the film thing is it. I feel energized by it, and so music and film and those things, I'm energized by that right now. So I'm somewhat disciplined, but less disciplined because it is.
It doesn't have the financial reward.
Yeah, it doesn't have the financial reward, and sometimes it's an uphill. For about 7 months, it was a real uphill battle to just keep doing it because I couldn't find the right people. And then the people I was talking to thought they knew more than I did when it was my money that was paying for everything. No, you're not going to tell me what to do when I'm spending my money on this and I know something about this. So you're supposed to be here to help me, not to tear me down and tell me that what I'm not doing is successful. So and we'll probably touch on that a little bit later. But part of the struggle with my discipline is when I encounter there's a great reward financially and personally with my clients because they love me and they love my work. On the creative side, it's more of a battle because people are asking me, well, why are you doing this? Well, who do you think you are for doing this? Have you done this before? Or can you? And then not knowing a lot about me and not knowing my history of creativity. Well, yes, I know what I'm doing. And if I don't know what I'm doing, I can find somebody to help me to figure out what I'm doing. And then, isn't that why I hired you? So things like that. So that's like the long answer to the question. Sometimes when things feel like an uphill battle, I'm less disciplined. So I'll leave it alone. And then thankfully I was able to find the Black Lady Film Crew back in January, and we've been going ever since. So it doesn't take as much discipline to keep it going because we all work together, and we're becoming like a well-oiled machine so we can really do some projects and get things done. So it doesn't require as much as it did this time last year. So
very good. So I have 2 questions. Dr. Jones, how do you deal? I mean, we're talking about bipolar disorder, right? And how do you look? I've known quite a few people that deal with that, suffer from it. I have a best friend that was killed because of it. How have you been able to manage or coexist, whatever word is best used to define your relationship with bipolar disorder? How have you been able to achieve the level of success that you have with this it can be extremely dilapidating. I've seen it, mental illness.
Prayer is the first thing. The timing of this is so perfect because we know it's or if you don't know, it's mental health awareness month, and on my Instagram page I dedicated a post per day. So my team and I deliberately worked on having a post per day, so that's 31 posts at the least that I'm sharing about my personal journey to normalize mental health and mental illness. Again, it goes back to God. That's the first thing. The second thing is having the relationships that I have with my primary care physician and making sure that she has an open line of communication with my therapist and being very proactive, not reactive, not waiting until I'm piss poor and about to snap. But just being like doing my due diligence, that journaling, that prayer, that meditation. Certain places I don't go anymore. And I'm okay with that. Certain people I can't, I love them, but I have to love them from a distance because the only person I can control is myself. I can't control how you operate, but if the way you operate triggers me, then why perpetuate violence or going into a manic phase of my life if all I have to do is say I love you and I respect you, but I love myself so much that the way I have to deal with you is that long-handed spoon. The other thing is taking my medication, making sure that it's the right medication and making sure that I, write down like, you put me on this medication. it was working, but I think I've gotten too immune to it to the point where I'm starting to feel that anxiousness again, and being able to advocate for myself. So when I go to my doctor appointment, I'm not just going to the doctor appointment just to check something off my list, but I have my, what's the point of having these expensive phones if we're not going to put good use to them? So I have my notes like, okay, February 16th, this is what was going on. Like my hands are starting to sweat again, like profusely. I don't know if that's a side effect, or I don't know if I'm really anxious. Help me figure that out. The other thing is too, just making sure that I'm taking the right medication and I'm taking it at the right time of day. If I know I need to be productive, which I need to be productive every day of my life, but knowing that I need to take my medicine at night opposed to taking it at day has allowed me to be able to be creative, allow me to be productive and not have those mood swings. But then also too, just knowing when to take the break. And not waiting until I'm burned out to take the break, but taking breaks to be part of that self-care and that soul care that we talked about early on. And being married to a spouse that understands me and not see me as a leper. You know, like if you know anything about the Bible days, like, oh, you say you bipolar. Oh, okay. All right. It was nice meeting you. Right. But him being able to work with me, not for me, to enable me, or not to me, to control me, or not like he don't see it at all, to help with the children. My oldest daughter, oh, she's like, that's my twin. She like, the way you just walked in, you okay? And I'm like, well, just by how my steps, just how my presence, or when she noticed when I do speaking engagements, there are times where I can't take people I can't, if it's too much happening, she's like, her and my husband are pretty much like bodyguards to a certain extent. Like, it's not that I don't love people, but they know, like, don't catch me off guard. Like, just grabbing me,
right?
Like, that's gonna send me into something, right? Because it's a trigger, because it reminds me of when I was raped. What I need people to understand is that when we talk about mental illness, is not something where we should be ostracized. We're still human beings. We still should be humanized. But you don't have to stay in survival mode if you have the proper resources in place. You can live. You know, most times I hear people say, like, you suffer from. I know I don't suffer. I live with a mental illness.
That's right. But I think that that's important because, again, you have taken proactive steps so that you're not suffering.
Exactly.
People that are suffering are living alone with it. Or you know what I mean? They don't want to be ostracized. You literally have step by step, God first. I have my physician and my therapist communicating. I am in a relationship with a man that doesn't treat me like a leper, or is something wrong with me. My children also can identify when I need help. All of that is important, right? And there are people that don't know what to do, because, like you said, it is just now that we're normalizing talking about mental illness, right? And it shows up in so many different ways, right? Some people have extreme anxiety. Some people, you know, have different levels of schizophrenia, bipolar disorder. And I just think that it has been like the one crazy.
Yep. And that was the thing when I was growing up, not knowing that I was, my very first traumatic experience was when I was 15, February of 96. I fell on some black ice, and when I went to get up, my left ankle detached from my leg. When I say one of the most freakiest accidents ever, like ligaments everywhere. And I was somewhere I wasn't supposed to be, trying to hang. I don't know if y'all know anything about gangs. I was trying to hang with BD, me and my friends, and I had a 9 p.m. curfew, and my mother always told me, stay out them alleys. Don't nothing good happen in them alleys. But I need to take the shortcut so I could get home in time, because the street lights were on, and I did not need my mother outside on that front porch, Shaniqua, and then get on the bus the next morning. You know, kids can be cruel, even though it's funny. It's funny now. I get ready to get on the school bus the next morning. As soon as I walk on, everybody like, Shaniqua. And I'm like, that was cute. You thought you did that. Okay, cool. And so when I fell on that ice, my mother at that time, if I'm 15, she's what? She's 55, just left the full-time position because of medical concerns that she was experiencing. And so we didn't have any insurance. I was born and raised in Harvey, so we couldn't go to Ingalls Hospital because we didn't have insurance. So she drove from Harvey to 55th and Providence, which is one of the county hospitals. And she took the street because she didn't believe in taking the expressway anymore because she was afraid to drive on the expressway. So just imagine going from Halsted to State, from State to Cottage Grove, all the way to 55th. And so for every bump she hit, for every pothole, I lost another ligament. That by the time we got to the hospital, they literally had to take the rug to carry it in to see what they can capture from the bones.
Dr. Jones.
Yeah.
Don't you see me over here squirming and squirming? I can't even handle the details. Look, I can't handle the details. And you are a great detailed orator, okay? And
I would say I apologize, but I need people to know that, because what happens is that when we think about mental illness, we think it's a something that is a result from the most egregious, like you saw someone get killed, or you were shot, or you know, you was molested, you know, like it had to be so deep rooted and hurtful. But this was an accident, and my brain couldn't catch up with the idea of what was happening to my body, and my brain went into shock. That was the onset of me having this traumatic experience that led to being untreated, that then I got pregnant at 17 on top of postpartum depression, on top of poverty, and suppressing that pain, trying to do like Salon said, you can't sex it away, you can't drink it away. So all the things I was doing, and boom, I exploded.
I completely understand, because that's when I, you know, started to develop severe depression, anxiety. Is right after my daughter was born. I felt like a failure, went through a failure. It developed imposter syndrome really bad. Before that moment, you couldn't tell me I wasn't intelligent. You couldn't tell me I wasn't going to be successful. You couldn't tell me anything about myself. And then after that, I questioned everything about myself, and it still exists to this day. Right. And no one talks about postpartum depression in young Black girls. That's a ailment that I, up until recently, associated with middle class white women.
Yep.
Right. Middle class to upper class white women. And I also thought it meant you doing some crazy to your children, right? You killing them, you strangling them, you doing all kinds of stuff. So there's just this idea of what postpartum depression is, and we don't think about like how that could truly impact a 15, 16, 17, 18, a young woman, and how that interrupts. I tell people all the time, I was a mother before I understood what it meant to be a woman.
That part.
Okay. You gotta, you know. So, and here's, I'm going to close this out with Valencia. I got this question for you. Thank you, Dr. Jones. I have this question for you. We have a few more minutes, but I wanted to talk to you specifically about what it means, because I know you personally, and we've had this conversation before about the struggle of being an artist after 50. You understand?
Yeah.
I mean, after 40, after 30, after 25, because you know, somewhere somebody said that creativity and artistry was reserved for youth, right? I don't know who said it, when, and how, you know. But talk to me about what it means to be a creative spirit as a more seasoned and wise woman, and what message you have for others that may be facing some obstacles or challenges in that space.
Really digging in and understanding and accepting the fact that at this age, you know that that's who you are. No one can change that about you. No one can stop you. It's something that there's something inside of you where you have to create something. You have to do something creatively. Otherwise, you feel like you're, and I don't mean to sound dramatic, you feel like you're just dying inside. There's something that's not fulfilled in you. So that's something that I embraced in my 40s, but I really fully embraced in my 50s. But it's more of an uphill battle now, because when I try something new, or I start something, or I try to find people to work with, I really have to say, you know what, I'm going to do this. I have to tell myself every day, I'm going to do this. I don't need anybody's permission to do it. I don't need anybody else's money to do it. I don't need anybody else's anything to do it. If they want to ride along, I'm happy to have them, but I'm going to do this whether anybody goes with me or not. I'm going to do it regardless of whether somebody says, do you know how hard this is? Do you know how old you are? And that's what I get a lot too. And I realize that my male friends who are creative Black men, they don't get the same thing that I get. But I get the, well, how are you going to pay for that? Well, how are you going to do that? Oh, you pay people? Oh, you do this? And it's an uphill battle where I have to shut out the noise and I have to remain focused on the fact that this is who I am and I have to do this. So I need to leave my creative legacy as I move through these days. I'm still in good health. I'm blessed to be in good health. I'm blessed to have resources. I accept the fact that this is who I am. It's not going to change, and I'm going to be doing something creative until they put me into the ground, because this is who I am. And that's what yeah.
I love that. And I think I just found your comment somewhere in the background over there, Dr. Shaniqua Jones, and I think it's a perfect time to say it. She said validation is for parking only.
Yeah. Yeah.
Amen. Validation is for parking only. And I absolutely love that.
I wanted to add one thing what Dr. Jones said earlier. She said she talked about people being you people, I think kind of accepting you, or you just stop. What was that you said? Dex, the 52-year-old brain fog, but not needing permission, but having the confidence and saying, you know what, I was taught also to be humble. So that worked against me as a creative person for many years, because people were like, well, you can sing, but you don't need to be all of that. But that's who I am. I sing, I get in front of people and I sing, and that's what I do. And there's a part of you when you're creative and when you have a gift, that's a big part of you, and you have to embrace the fact that you need to be seen, because people need to hear this gift, and you need to share what you have with others, whether you're a visual artist or in your case, you speak in TeQuila, with what you did years ago with the rapping and the creativity and everything that you do. I mean, there's something in us that says you need to be seen. And that humility, that false humility that they try to put on us, particularly little girls, and you see it with male musicians. They didn't have the same limits put on them as I have placed on me as a woman. So I'm not supposed to be seen. I'm not supposed to be paid for this. I'm not supposed to be, and not being a big artist, but someone who's just doing what she does, trying to do what she does. And it for many years it felt like a pile-on of discouragement. But I said, you know what? I'm confident. I know what I can do. I know I do it well. And that confidence has built more and more to the point where people can say things. I don't care if you say I'm arrogant. Okay, I love you. I love you. I love you. I'm still going to sing, because I know what I'm capable of. I know that I'm talented and I'm gifted. And that's something that I really dig into when I talk about this is who I am. This is who I am. And I'm not going to apologize or make anyone else feel comfortable when I'm being who I am. And I'm happy being who I am. So
I absolutely love that. And let me tell you something. I live my life that way. I do what I want to do. I work when I want to work. I manifest what I want to manifest. If I say I want it, I don't think about what skills I have or don't have. I've never done a podcast a day in my life. I said I want to do it, I'm gonna do it. Before that, I produced over 30 short films. I put out albums. I have published 2 books. You name it, and I built a 7-figure business, and I employ people all over the globe. So you can't tell me what I can do. I'm on assignment as Dr. Jones. As long as I'm on assignment, it will be. You know what I mean? So let's close out with our final thoughts. You have 60 seconds. Give me a final thought, Dr. Shaniqua Jones. What do you want to leave the people with?
That I know that we are living in trying times. The uncertainty of the pandemic, the uncertainty of the civil, social, racial unrest, the idea of isolation because of COVID-19, and living in a time that no one else has ever lived in. So we don't have a blueprint. We're taking it moment by moment, day by day. And so especially for people who like to plan ahead and don't know how to find their way, I just ask that you extend yourself the same, if not more, grace and compassion that you so freely give to others, make sure you give that to yourself. And that's part of that self-care. I saw that someone made a comment about balance. Balance, take it day by day. Don't try to live up to the expectations of what social media says you should be, what societal stigmas say you should be, but just listen to that voice. There's two voices. There's that voice that gives us the encouragement that we need to push us forward. I ask each one of you to challenge yourself to think about, whose voice do you hear? And then I also challenge you to ask yourself, when you feel that voice of doubt, that voice of fear, that voice of inadequacy, that imposter syndrome, that voice that tells you that you can't, you shouldn't, why would you, that question your even your existence, whose voice is that do you hear? And be able to differentiate between that voice that pushes you forward and that voice that tries to suppress you, so that you can get to the root as to the reason why you feel like you're not able and you're not capable and you don't matter, because you do matter. Your life matter. We live in a day and age that tries to say race matter versus an occupation, Black lives matter versus blue lives matter. But if we remove all of that, not saying that we don't have differences, but again, it takes me back to who I am. I'm love personified. If I can overcome my obstacles of having to face the person who raped me, that it also is a result of my fifth child, that we need to get into that part. That if I can forgive that person, not saying we've been to have kumbaya moments. He can't call his phone like, hey, Shaniqua, no, it's not like that. But I still pray for that young man because he is a human being too. And so with that being said, we all have the ability to heal. You have to make a conscious choice if you want to.
Yes. Final words from you, Valencia. We got literally about 90 seconds.
Okay. Nobody can be you. Have the confidence to be you and to do whatever it is that's in your heart to do. Each one of us has a responsibility, and that gift that we have, those things that we can contribute to the world, will make it a better place. Be you. Don't try to be anyone else. And your heart is your compass, and that's when you follow your heart, you'll find joy.
Yes. Love it. I really want to thank you, ladies, for joining me today. I hope you'll come back and be a guest again, and we can dig deeper and get some of those questions. You know, we only had it never feels like enough time. So 90 minutes today, and I really appreciate you two joining. Please chime in and tune in to with us for our future guests for these conversations. Thank you, ladies.
No, thank you. Thank you. And it's nice to meet you, Dr. Jones.
Yes, let's please connect.
Yes, let's connect. Let's all connect. I love it. I think I'm gonna do an executive suite guest brunch or something. That'd be so good.
Yeah.
See what I mean?
Yes.
See what I mean?
Yeah.
We do what we do.
Yes.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank
you guys. Make sure that you come back again and join us the first and third Friday afternoon, 12 p.m. Central Standard Time of every single month, as we meet with two more self-made, high-earning women and talk about their journeys. Until next time, I'll see you. Peace.